7 seconds.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready?
Ready!
Welcome to Nevermind the Furthermore, your morning dose of creative conversation and coffee with your host, Brian K. Morris, independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, award-winning playwright, Facebook famous YouTuber, and former mortician's assistant. Get ready to start your day off right.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Nevermind the Furthermore for Monday, September 20th, 2021. Hope you all had a great weekend. How the heck are you? And we've got something special going on this morning. We've got the great Glenn B. FLEMING with us. He is a world traveler. He is a comic book creator. He has spent time with Jack Kirby. And if you haven't, then you're going to need to check out his brand new book that we'll be talking about. And we'll run a spot for that in a moment. But first of all, we want to do our attitude of gratitude to start out the week. And we're going to start out with our sponsor for today's show, Plasma Fire Graphics. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you. You've just written the best book you possibly can. And when you do that, you want a great wraparound cover, don't you? You'd probably like some graphics to help you sell it on social media and maybe even a beautiful trailer like the one you just saw. Then you need to check in with Plasma Fire Graphics. They're very affordable. And Jeffrey Hayes is really easy to work with. Check out what they do on Facebook and also at plasmafiregraphics.com where you can contact Jeffrey directly. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you because it matters to your readers. And we also want to thank our Patreon supporters. Patreon is a monthly subscription service where you can directly grant a little stipend every month to your favorite creators. And many of these people have their own Patreon page, as do I, obviously. And one of the perks is you get to see your name a couple times on this show. And if you want to see your name here and also get a look at an exclusive blog and works in progress, all kinds of cool things, then check me out on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. Speaking of checking out, check out the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. Ted Davies is back. He's going to be coming back this week. He's got some big news about his trip out west tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. And tonight we've got also Michaela Jade's Tidbits and Scribbles. If you are looking to move yourself up in the creative world, she's doing it, and she's going to tell you how she's doing it and how you can do it too. Also check out her morning motivationals every weekday. Around 7 a.m. And we've got some new shows coming in, such as the Dastardly Dingoes starting in October. And I will be starting a brand new daily show called BK Minutes. And we think you're going to dig it. And so anyway, please check it out. Please go to our Facebook page and give it a like. And also check us out Thursday nights on Comic Book Spectrum at 7 p.m. on Thursdays on the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. And now it is my absolute pleasure to bring in a good friend of mine, Mr. Glenn B. FLEMING, who's going to share the mic with me. And we're going to talk about, we may let him, let's see if he can do it. We'll let him read all the comments. I'll just go out for some
I was just reading them now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the count, and it's not getting any better.
No.
So we're gonna be flying through your comments this morning, but we'll try to acknowledge everyone. But Glenn is, like I said, he has got check him out on Amazon. He has got a wealth of incredible books on there. He is also writer, artist, and hand letterer, I should say, on Hatch. This is like this is like a thing for the Sunday Funnies crowd. But anyway,
I don't think they appreciate it. I don't know.
I know Russ Leach doesn't.
Russ is great. I love him.
I do too. He's fantastic. We got to talk to him about being on the show now that we're doing a few guests on the morning show, and it's a more agreeable hour for you because
well, it's
Glenn,
it's 3 in the afternoon here.
Yeah, and as we're recording this, it is 10 o'clock in the morning here. So, and Russ lives not too far from Glenn. So
Russ is on the same timeline as I am.
Yeah, same ley line, all that stuff. But anyway, that's why it creates the magic. And congratulations to Russ, by the way, for his wins in the Indie Volt Awards the other night. And also, I have to say this real fast. I want to also wish all the best to Rick Bradley and his wife. Andrea Lorraine Wright and I are happy to announce the arrival of Raziel Lawrence Bradley, born into this crazy world at 7:06 last night. 8 pounds even and 20.5 inches long. And welcome to the world. Welcome to your parents. And Rick, now you've got somebody to edit for you. But anyway, and soon. But anyway, well, congratulations to the Bradleys for the new addition to their home. Rick is one of us, and so we're glad to see us. So anyway, why instead of me fawning all over you, Glenn, how about we let you tell everybody who you are and how amazing you are, and you can fawn over yourself. How's that?
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm I'm an artist, writer, publisher, photographer, cinematographer, traveler, whatever you want to call it. I've done a few things in my life, but I've got I think it's about 10 books now published on. They're all on Amazon, with a few more to go. I'm working on several projects at the same time. As everybody probably knows by now, and if they don't, why not? A few years ago, I went to see, 20 odd years ago, I went to see Jack Kirby a couple of times at his house in California, and I filmed the proceedings or part of it, and I produced a DVD 4 years ago and released it for what would have been his 100th birthday, August 2nd, 2017. And since then, I had to, didn't have to edit anything out, but I took stuff out of it, and I've reintroduced that. I filmed the Q&A after the premiere. I had a premiere with about 40 invited people at a local theatre. And I had that filmed, and I put that on the new DVD I'm releasing shortly. But I've also written a book about going to see him as well, and the transcript of the film is in this book as well, and that'll be out soon on Indiegogo. I've had a few glitches this past couple of weeks on that, so I can't put it out yet, but it'll be out within a couple of weeks, I would have thought, or on Indiegogo in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I've been working on stuff. I used to work in graphics, and it's just about all I've done all my life, really, for the past 40 odd years. And I've been really fortunate to do all that hand lettering, like you say, and draw a few things.
Yeah. Well, I yield to no one in my admiration for your art. I mean, it's beautiful. If anyone supported Indie Volt Revolt recently, you'd have gotten a taste of what this man can do. And you're still working on some new material for that, right?
Yeah. I'm doing lots of things. I'm writing, still writing a couple of more science fiction novels. But what I've tended to do these days is, rather than commit for a year writing a 72-page graphic novel, comic strip, which is just too. It's not that I couldn't do it. It's just that I like to eat along the way, so I have to do other things as well. So what I've been doing recently is that I've been writing prose books and illustrating them, putting 10, maybe 8 or 10, 12 illustrations in there. And I like that combination because I like writing and I like drawing as well. But drawing is takes a lot of time. I've been drawing this morning and it's fantastic. I love doing it. But with my writing, I tend to illustrate the book rather than do a graphic novel. So
yeah. And also I think you it doesn't hurt to have that little bit of refresher, to walk away from a project for just a little bit and make some progress on something else.
Yeah, well I've never really suffered from this sort of writer's block that writers tend to get, seem to get, because what I do is, I'm not saying I don't get stuck in something, or sometimes I just want to stop doing that. I'll just go on to the next story. So I've got about 4 or 5 stories all going at the same time, And when I feel like writing about one, I'll write about that, and then I'll stop, and then I'll sort, and if I get stuck anywhere, which I tend not to anyway, because when I'll give away a secret here, when I write a book, I write myself a timeline, and you've got the beginning, the middle, and the end. They don't have to be in that order, but you basically create the beginning, the middle, and the end. You create your characters and protagonists and all this kind of stuff. You create the situations, the conflicts. You get all that fleshed out, so you know what's going to happen. You can't suddenly have somebody in the middle of a book knowing how to fly to get them out of the situation.
Right.
There are set, really rigid parameters, and you might not reveal them all at the beginning, and you might not use some of them, but in your mind as a writer, you should have what this person can do. And what I tend to do is, I think Alan Moore does this as well, I'm sure other writers do. When I approach something, I will write a little biography of that person.
Oh yeah.
And you create a character, you flesh it out, but you don't necessarily refer to everything. You don't have to reveal everything.
Right.
And I do a timeline, so I've got what happens, why is this happening, what happens during and then the end, and then I write towards situations. So if I know that this guy is going to get, hit by a truck, I have to write towards him being hit by the truck.
Right.
You can't just suddenly have him hit by a truck.
Right.
Because that's another story as far as I'm concerned. If you suddenly, like I said, if you suddenly have the guy being able to fly just to get out of the situation, well, then it's your fault because you got him in that situation.
True. That's true.
Bad writing, bad plotting. And if you like I say, if you have him suddenly being able to fly, it's like, oh, nobody's going to believe that. I mean, you look at Superman and, it's the suspension of disbelief and all that. So, I mean, I must tell you, I personally believe truly that Christopher Reeve could fly. That's why he got the job, because you never see any strings on that man. You see the little documentaries, and I've never seen, if there is one, I've not seen it.
You might be onto something.
Because there was a documentary I saw years ago, just as an aside here, when he flew in, and they're showing them filming it. It was the actual shoot, and the director was saying, right, Chris flies in and he punches this guy. I think he might have pushed Richard Pryor. He pushes him, and Richard Pryor had like a tube on, like a Dr. Octopus arm, collapsible thing on his back, and when you pushed him, he went 40 feet in the air, back 300 yards to the top of this wall. So I thought, this is great, because we're seeing how Richard's going to do this.
Right. Now
we'll see Chris's wires when he comes through the window. Superman's wires. Superman comes through, no wires. Pushes him, and he flies back. There's your proof. No wires on the...
There you go. And that's why this man is on the Truth Mongers every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on the Rising Tide Broadcast Network with Ted Davies Artistry.
Yeah, back on Wednesday. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Are you guys going to be on the Wednesday?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I can advertise this. We're talking about Jack Kirby, and was he linked to the source?
Ooh.
Not sauce.
The sauce.
Sauce.
Well, yeah. Well, considering he's from New York, it's probably the sauce.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But yeah, we're talking about that.
Oh, that'd be great. And speaking of Jack Kirby, how about we run your little video here? How does that sound?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
All right, here it goes. This is going to be happening on Indiegogo very, very soon. And y'all, once I make my pledge, y'all can get on it too. I think you'll want to watch that.
When they mined an area, they put down yellow tape right across that line, see. And if you walked on the wrong side of that yellow tape, you blew up.
Strange Tales 136, I remember it very clearly. and that was my first exposure to Kirby. And I wanted to show it to people.
That's fantastic. I don't get tired of watching that. I am so looking forward to that project. I really am, Glenn.
Thank you. One of my biggest, greatest memories of the premiere, in fact, probably my only memory of it, was how daunting it is watching your head speak when it's 15 feet high in a theatre.
Yeah.
When it came on, I thought, oh, I don't know whether I was going to be able to cope with it or not, because I didn't think about it until it came on, and then I thought, oh, sugar, it's going to. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing it.
That's cool, and so many of us, who never got to meet Kirby. I'm just really looking forward to the insights that we're going to get from this video, and hearing him talk about what the first part of his dialogue there was, about his war years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about just before we started filming. We were talking about the story in The Losers, where the Olympic runner, the black guy, is meets the German, and that's what we were talking about. And I think they run into a minefield on that, and a lot of the Germans get killed in that. And Jack started talking about these mines and stuff like this, and he was telling me about. He was standing next not that situation, but he was standing next to his captain, and he said this isn't on the film, but what he said that the Germans had I'm generalizing, I'm sure not all of them were like that, but they would fire the tank gun at people, not at an individual. Not at a group. Well, they'd fire at a group as well, but they would fire at. Imagine what that would do. An 88mm shell.
Yeah.
Well, this guy next to Jack disappeared. He just disappeared.
Ooh.
And it blew Jack into the next room in the house, the building where they were standing.
Wow.
Because he got hit by the shell. They fired the shell at him.
Mm-hmm.
No, Jack was standing next to him. They could have fired it at him.
Yeah.
But I guess they would have seen the rank, wouldn't they, and the stuff, and they would know.
Sure.
And stuff like that. That's not on the tape, but there's other stuff on there that's really. Jack was a really funny guy. He tells some real stories on there. Mm-hmm. When he was a kid and being in the cinema and fighting people on the street. He'd have 10 fights before he got to school, because he'd have to walk. He was in the Lower East Side, as we all know, right. and he was Jewish, so he'd have to. When he got to the end of the street, there'd be Italians. He'd have to fight those, and then there'd be Irish, and then there'd all this, like in was it Gangs of New York, like in Scorsese, that film, that kind of thing. Maybe not as bad as that, but that's where it came from.
Oh my god!
And yeah, it was just it's hindsight, isn't it? 2020. But I decided to go there the second time and film it. Mm-hmm. But this is how you can't equate for this. I took, because I was obviously in California for a couple of weeks, and that wasn't the only thing I was doing. Sure. I took about 10 tapes for the camcorder, and I only took one to Jack's house.
Oh wow.
But that was born out of not wanting to intrude on him. Because what I did with the first time was I knew I'd seen bits of him talking at conventions and things like that. And I knew he could talk, and I knew he liked to talk. So I didn't go with a set of questions, because I think the most boring thing in the world is when people say, oh, what was your first dog called and all this kind of thing. That's not an interview. That's to me, that's school time.
Yeah.
Apologies to anybody out there, but I think the best interviewers I've seen on the TV, we have a guy called Michael Parkinson.
Yes.
What he does, he says something and lets you talk for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. He lets the person dictate the flow. Mm-hmm. And he might bring it back, and he might throw another question in. Well, he will do. But that's why he's such a great interviewer, because it's not about him, because there's so many people out there that it's about them. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Ross's one. It's all about him. It's not about the guy who's got on. We used to have a guy called Terry Wogan. He's not with us now. And he had a show. When he was big in the late 80s, he had a show on 3 times a week for half an hour. And on one show, he had Martin Sheen, and I can't remember now, but he had two people as famous as Martin Sheen on his little sofa. 3 people in a half an hour of that magnitude in their career. And to me, that's bad. I mean, you should just have one person on. What can he say in 10 minutes? What can Martin Sheen tell you about his fantastic life in Hollywood in 10 minutes?
Right.
You know? And so I decided that I wouldn't ask questions, and I just let him go with it. And that's what he does. And he's quite comfortable. There was no forcing any information out of him that he didn't want to tell me, you know, and we just had a great time. I mean, I was there for about on the second visit, I was there for about an hour before the film that you see, and there for about 2 hours after the film that you see. But I didn't take that extra cartridge, and I should have taken it. It just runs out. I should have. But anyway, I'm drifting off course.
Oh, no. It's that Kirby was a natural storyteller.
Yeah.
You know, just like you, just like a lot of the people we've had on Clever Title Pending. That, you know, and it's interesting you mentioned that about Parkinson. We have the BBC America here,
right?
And I've seen some of Parkinson's interviews, and you're right, he's an amazing interviewer. Graham Norton, I also find, is a terrific interviewer.
He is good. But again, I think that this is just my view. He has too many people on that couch. He has 5 or 6.
Yeah,
and they do have a good laugh, and it is funny, and I do like watching him. But I think that's too many. I think you can have too many. It's similar with the broadcast. I think it's really bad when there's 8 people on.
Yeah.
It's too many.
Yeah.
You know, it's too many because people are talking over each other, and somebody doesn't speak for half an hour, and that's why it's best one-on-one.
And there's, differing levels of celebrity.
Yeah.
So you get like a superstar out there, and then you get 3 or 4 superstars out there, and then you get somebody who is maybe coming up the ranks but is hot at the moment.
Yeah.
It'd be like having like the Star Wars cast from the 70s and 80s films on the couch, and then you bring in Billie Eilish from, say, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
She's just overwhelmed. And I grew up on an interviewer here in America called David Susskind. And it was a very, it was just a dark set spotlight on him and his guest. And it was, just a very casual conversation. And that's the sort of thing I gravitated to more than, say, the Johnny Carson Tonight Show style of interviewing, where it's like, okay, I'll talk to you for 10 minutes. I'll mug to the camera, and then we'll push you off down the couch. You sit next to Ed McMahon, and then I'll bring the next person to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So I fully agree with you with that.
I mean, Michael Parkinson does occasionally have a couple of people on.
Yeah,
but he never has more than 3. And I remember there was one interview. David Beckham, the footballer.
Yes. Married to Posh Spice.
Yes, that's right. Well, he was on with Posh Spice. That's his wife. That's she's part of the team. That's fair enough. And somebody, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Billy Connolly came on. The comedian.
Yeah,
and that was hilarious because David Beckham's great, but he's not a comedian,
No.
But he's interesting, but he's not a comedian. But Billy Connolly will make the graveyard laugh, won't he? Because he's just a funny guy.
I love
it. But again, it's like I said, I decided not to bombard him with questions because I didn't want to make him uncomfortable in any way, because any of those questions are some of the questions that people say, did you ask about that? Other people that was involved with, and I said no, because I didn't want to make him uncomfortable in his house, because I tell you, Ros Kirby would have kicked me out. And she'd have been right to. But I mean, I love the guy, and I love Ros. I only met them twice, but they were just incredible people. I mean, the first time I went, they didn't know who I was. They never met me. I hadn't done anything that they would know about. And I'm there. They're making me lunch. They made lunch for, and I sat there for an hour eating lunch, and
That's sweet.
they were just fantastic people. And there's all these stories, and the same story actually, where people go around, and the first thing that happens, they knock on the door, and the first thing that happened, that Ros give them something to eat. You know, so
Yeah.
she don't have to do that. You just say, clear off, you know, get out of the way, go on,
Yeah.
do one.
He's working.
Yeah, but they were just. It was a wonderful time. It's one of the highlights of my life. I mean, I've done a few things, as you know, but that was that. I mean, I've interviewed people who walked on the moon.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But I didn't go to their house.
Right.
I would have done if they'd have let me, if they'd have invited me. But
Yeah.
but you know, and things like that. And I've had, I know through my life, a lot of people say you shouldn't have heroes and things like that because, well, for one reason or another. But I think you should. I think everybody's got a hero. I think so. And I think anybody who says they've not got one hero, it might be their mother or their father. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if they say they're not, if they say they don't have a hero, I think they've got a problem.
Yeah.
I've got lots of heroes, and I tell you, I've been really, really great, lucky, and I'm so grateful that I've met a lot of my heroes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but there's a lot more that I haven't.
Oh, sure. And yeah, I think you're right. Everyone should have someone to look up to and at least get a moment with them.
Yeah.
You know.
Can I just answer this from Sarah? Sarah is a documentary.
Certainly. What time did she say it? What
3:22.
3:22. Let's see if I can find it. 10. Oh, I forgot. You're 22. Okay, because it's like, it's taking into account
10,
your time. Okay,
10,
so I'll look at
22.
22. Okay, is it okay? Yes, this
Yeah,
one. Glenn, is
that's
the
the one.
documentary going to be a series of videos? If so, how many do you plan for them to be?
No, it's only one. There's already one out there, but that's sold out, so to speak. And this is the updated version. This is why I've called it the final cut, because I wanted to put some of the footage on that I cut out the last time. So if there's anybody watching from the Kirby family, don't worry, there's nothing controversial or anything like that. I have to say that because their lawyer rang me the first time, and there's nothing controversial on there. I will say that there's no talking about other people that all that was involved with, and we know what we're talking about. So there's nothing like that. Because I wouldn't if I had that footage of any of those people there saying that, I would cut that out, because I'm not here to upset anyone or anything like that. So so there's one video already out there, but this is the updated version with lots more on it, including the Q&A and all that kind of thing. So
Very cool.
The answer to that is no. It's going to be one.
Well, that's great. Thank you for asking that question, Sarah. And good morning. We probably should launch into some of these people. We've got over 70 comments right now,
Yeah.
but that's okay. We're going to run through it. And folks, please, we may not read it out, but please go ahead and leave your promotions in if you want. Grant Lager says, good morning, my friends. Feels weird to have missed Nevermind the Furthermore 2 days last week. Feels even weirder to have a guest host, but I'm sure Glenn will do a great job, though. I know he will. That's why we have him on here. We vet our guests is what we do. Yeah, it terrifies me. I get people occasionally, I've never seen them, and they come into the chat and they're like, hey, send me the link to the studio.
Oof.
It's like, would you like my PIN number and my front door key while you're at it? You know, it's like, yeah, you betcha. And there he is, a co-host of the Truth Mongers Wednesdays on the Rising Tide Network. Good morning to you, Ted. Looking forward to your big announcement tomorrow morning. And Donna Carly, mwah, and barely awake. Hey, that's how I do these shows. That's how we get through them. And Skunk Rocker, no time for BS. So let me go ahead and tell you all what's yanking my tail this wonderful, miserable, murky Monday. We got to get through this. This is a big feature of our show here. If someone is talking about a hardship that they are currently facing, don't try to one-up them. You're not making them feel any better. That's good advice, actually. That really is. And all that person is going to feel is that you're trying to make their own situation invalid, especially if you use comments like "quit whining" and "I'd rather have your life." And good point. And no, you're not trying to establish a rapport with me, that we are on the same level, that you sympathize, you're seeking attention for yourselves, so shut your hole. Okay, that is Great advice from the Skunk Rocker, who's one of the co-hosts of Stupid O'Clock Thursdays at 9 Eastern and 11 p.m. on Sunday night, or Saturday nights, rather. And I wonder what type of advantage reverse bragging like it does for a person. Hi, Carl Witzman. Good morning. And that happened to me on Stupid O'Clock twice Saturday when I was talking about my whole week. And yeah, I might have overreacted, but I don't appreciate people trying to downplay my suffering. And that's true. That's true. And Damien Waldbrun, good to see you here. Driving around the boondocks, doing my morning work, love and karmic glory to all. And Ted Davies, we need to listen to people, not one-up them. Maybe share your experience, like what I get you going through, etc. Show some compassion, not your one-upmanship. And we don't know what karmic glory is, but it sounds good. I think it was an old issue of Fantastic Four, I think. I'm not sure. And here's a good question. Now, we did talk about the time difference. Now, Grant Lankert says, I'm imagining Glenn will be kind of tired. Isn't it like super late at England right now?
It's 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yes. And
I'm ahead of America.
That's true.
At least 5 hours.
So when the world ends, Glenn is going to call me and let me know how it's going. So I've got about 5 or 6 hours to prepare my soul for the next level.
And that is one of the reasons why the alien presence on the planet can't be revealed, because the planet, half the planet, is always asleep.
That's true.
So if Australia were told, we'd be asleep, and we'd be really pissed off that they hadn't told us first. So who do you tell first?
That's true. I would call Glenn. He deserves a heads up.
Yeah. Well, I already know.
Well, there we go. See? Yeah, that's why he's a truth monger, people.
I've seen those lights in Nevada. I've seen them.
Mm-hmm.
What they were, I don't know. Well, if they were helicopters, they were moving pretty fast and very strangely. What can I say?
Scott Cracker says, yeah, I get that. That was 2 days ago, but I'm still mad. So that's what's yanking my tail. Now, Mr. Glenn, I apologize for spraying all over your guest hosting duties. Please continue. So I am going to skip through a lot of these. Let's see. Oh, now Grant Lankert poses a question here, a creative question. And I'd like your input on that. Informal survey. What would you pay for a 60-page black and white comic? Do you think 20 for print and 15 digital is unreasonable? Glenn, how about you?
$20. What's that? About 15 quid.
I think it's about 15 quid and probably about 10 quid for digital.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't buy a digital copy, but that's just me. It depends. I don't know. I'd have to see it, wouldn't I? I don't. Yeah, I'd pay it. Yeah, if it was good, I'd pay it. Yeah. Personally,
print, I think that's on target. Digital, I
it's
have
too high.
Yeah, the only reason I would release something that costly in digital would be if you had mass distribution. This is why when you go to, say, Comixology or Amazon, new releases there are digital are almost the same price as the paper edition because of the retailers.
Right.
They feel they're getting undercut. And that's why Comixology doesn't discount anything until it's about 30 to 60 days old in most cases. And the big book publishers never discount it. You want digital, the paperback's $25, you're paying about maybe 20 for the digital, something comparable. So I think the digital's a little high, to be honest. It's ones and zeros.
That price is too close, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The digital is too high. And it's too close. I mean, you might think, well, if another $5, I can get the print.
Yeah.
But then you've got to pay for postage and stuff. So
that's true.
I don't know.
And also, you've got this is something I just recently learned. You've got people like Glenn and I are on two different continents. Now, let's say Glenn wanted that book, and he's willing to, that's what basically, if Glenn finds that with the postage and our rotten postal service right now, and it's too costly for him, somebody might go digital, but you want to make that at a reasonable price because there are people who are going to sit there and going, wait a minute, you had the files anyway. So
I think $15 to charge somebody $15 for what effectively is an email is way too much. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think I would probably, if I was going to buy that book for $20, I would probably pay, I don't know what the postage would be, but I'd rather pay the postage and get the hard copy than 15 for a digital, because I think that's just too much.
Yeah, I for that much volume, I might consider a $10 digital, but also I would want that thing loaded with extra features, for instance, like script pages or something like that.
Yeah.
But Ted Davies disagrees with us, but that means Ted's wrong, because
He
Glenn and I are
always
always
disagrees. When we're on the show, he always disagrees with me. I'm just joking.
I know, but I side with you, Glenn, because you're here. Now, if he were here, I'd probably say, "Oh, Ted, you're absolutely right. I know who to suck up to around here." And Sarah's right. Sometimes it's a matter of listening. It helps. Hey, Spawny, good morning to you. What kind of sugar does Lady Gaga use in her coffee? Raw. I can't sing that. I will not subject you to that torment. Let's see. And no, Glenn won't be wearing a fist, but he is wearing his New York City hat, so that's fine.
Best place on earth.
There we go.
Apart from where I live.
There we go. And Lafayette, Indiana's number 3. And it would all depend on the comic grant, like if it was Beowulf or not. And yes, now we've got the song stuck in Sarah's head. And wait a second. And let's see. Yes, Carl Wisman putting on his like button. Remember, folks, if you're enjoying any part of seeing Glenn on here, if you're on Facebook, give us a like, and please also give us a thumbs up on YouTube. All right. And hello, newly minted dad. Congratulations, Rick Bradley, and good morning, Teresa Dunn. Well, glad to see you here. And Dan Hollifield, the host of Last Man Standing on Thursdays and Sunday mornings. Can't stay long. One more night of work this week, dude. Be strong, man. Be strong. And Anthony Beveau, hi, Brian. How are you? And how is everyone? We are dandy. We are well. And Brian Rodman, Dastardly Dingoes, coming to the Rising Tide Broadcast Network soon in October, and also part of Comic Book Spectrum. Good morning, my fellow Brian and Nevermorians. So good to see your face this morning, my friend. And as always, good for you. I am so happy for your nipples and your coffee. Let's kick off this work week, won't we? Oh, God. Anyway, and people wonder why I drink, Glenn.
Start as you mean to go on, Brian. Not Brian Rodman, I mean.
Yeah. We love you, Brian, and we're happy to have the update on your nipples. We'll be breaking in when, to give you further reports on them. And looking forward to seeing everyone on TED Talks Tuesday morning. Big announcement. I'm going to tell the future of Ted Davies Artistry. See you there live at 10 Eastern, maybe like this afternoon, Ted.
See that kind of promotion there is just so wrong. This is my show, Ted.
Yeah.
Get off. I'll see you on Wednesday.
And good to have you here, Bob's. Glad to see you.
See what I mean?
Yeah, everybody. They're taking advantage of you, Glenn. I mean, you're taking advantage of your kinder nature. And I'm very excited for Burger King Minutes. Well, that's what we're going to do for you, buddy. And let's see. And good afternoon, Glenn. See?
Hi, Rick.
And,
well done.
Yes, and Comics Talk Podcast saying Glenn is a valued member of the CromCon cohort. Oh, it says cohort. I got to get my new glasses for my new glasses co-host team. I need more coffee. Here we go. Grant Laggard has a good question here. I was thinking about Glenn yesterday. Yeah, when he posted this comment, because I heard a Brian Bolin interview where he said, quote, "I was never a Jack Kirby fan," and the interviewer said, "Okay, interview over."
But to be fair to Brian Bolland, he is pretty good.
Yeah, he's all right. He's done a couple things too. So
but apparently he does all his stuff on digital now, and I can't work it out because surely his originals would make a fortune, but maybe he's got enough money. I don't know.
Well, I saw that he had done an NFT of a print of that classic scene from Judge Dredd, Gaze into the Fist of Dread. Yeah. He sold that, and he made nearly, my understanding, he made like nearly Jose Delbo level money at that.
Wow.
So yeah,
I'm sure he knows what he's doing. He's a good artist.
He really is. He is fantastic.
He's fantastic. Yeah.
And good morning, Willow Schuyler. Glad to see you here. And Brian Rahman, everybody pay attention to Memoirs of an Angel 8 on Kickstarter. And we're going to try to catch up here, Brian. But everyone pay attention to that. And you're welcome, Rick Bradley. And Sarah, no, we're not saying that Glenn has done nothing with his life. That would be Ted Davies. He's most likely the most travelers and experienced person. Yes, I created my own words. That's why you're a writer. And thank you, Ryan Permison. And thank you, Keisha Acuff. Love you. And Glenn, what is your favorite work of Jack Kirby's? Excellent question.
The Eternals.
Okay, why?
I just felt that it was like he was really getting into a good sort of groove with that, but everything went, tail up, and this dispute with Marvel and all that kind of thing. But I really think that would have been, I think that was better than his, or looking like it was going to be better than his Fantastic Four and New Gods series, the Fourth World series.
Yeah.
Because he had all that experience then. He'd be approaching 60 then when he was doing that. So he had all that experience. He could obviously tell a story, and he was obviously a great artist and all that. But I think that all that was coming together with that particular series. So I really do enjoy that. But I didn't like it when they put it into the Marvel Universe. And we know the reasons for that. But I didn't like that, because I don't think he did either.
No.
He never mentioned it. This is my opinion. I don't think he did either, because it didn't need to be. And it was copyrights and things again. But that series, I think, was really going places in terms, and not especially, but partly because of John Verpoorten's inking. Very underrated artist, and he died around the same time as the book finished. I think he was only about 37 or something. He had a heart attack. But and I understand he worked in the production department, but he was a great inker, especially on Kirby.
Oh yeah, I think he was head of production at that time.
Yeah.
I think that was about the time Saul Brodsky was doing Skywald publishing at the time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I agree. I liked it. I always liked the, we won't get into the Vince Coletta fight here, but I always liked the inkers on Kirby that were very sympathetic to his original pencils, like Frank Giacoia or Mike Roy or Joe Sinnott.
Well, I've said this before. I think that this is my opinion again. These are all my opinions. I think that I would call Joe Sinnott an embellisher.
Yes, I agree with you.
And Frank Giacoia an inker. Mike Roy was an inker. Not that they couldn't do the other work, but that's why they were more truthful to the pencils.
Yeah.
But with Joe, I think Joe Sinnott is Kirby's best inker. If Joe Sinnott would have inked the Fourth World stuff, that'd have been something.
That'd have been amazing. Yeah. Talk about favorite. I'm glad you mentioned The Losers. That is my all-time favorite Kirby thing.
Right.
Because he could do cosmic grandeur like no tomorrow. But I think some of the best stories he ever did were the street level stuff, the one-on-one stuff, like This Man, This Monster. I know you know that one.
That is the greatest comic, in my opinion, the greatest comic story ever told, for lots of reasons. And one of the reasons is that it's sandwiched between Galactus and the Black Panther.
Yeah.
Single issue, one off, little 10 minutes, segue into the next epic. And I think that when was that? September 66, I think that came out.
Something like that, yeah.
I think that was the single most best, brilliant comic book story ever. And everybody was at the height of the power. Stan Lee's dialogue was great. Kirby was there and Sinnott was there. That is the best story.
Oh my gosh, yes. And
in my opinion.
Yeah, and Kirby was a master of pacing, and that story illustrates how much he was in terms of a long view of it. Because, like you said, you had the original Galactus trilogy. Then you followed it up with the introduction of Wakanda and the Black Panther. And Jack gives you this one issue, although it's packed with emotion. It's a rest for you emotionally, where you can kind of like come down a little.
You take a breath, can't you?
Yeah,
you're taking a breath.
Whereas a lot of writers go from one big punch in the face epic to the next.
But Kirby was subtle as well, because he brings the negative zone into it and all that kind of area where we went later.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff in there, and the way he deals with Ben Grimm wanting to be, well, the Thing wanting to be Ben Grimm again. We always know about that. It's just I tell you, if I could have a single issue of Kirby art cover to cover, it would be that one.
Oh, I hear you. That's something maybe we ought to do. Just throwing this out there to you. I've had people, mostly my wife, asking about doing back issue reviews for Comic Book Spectrum. And I would love to do where we tackle one book and just say why that thing just works so beautifully.
Another plug here for me. My magazine, Comics Unlimited.
Get it.
I wrote an article about that comic book. So, but yeah, you should do that. You should do a back issue thing, because don't forget, we've got what? America's got 100 years of comic books. England's got 100 years. There's a lot of stuff to go through.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of stuff, and I think that would be a really interesting show.
I think so too. And the fact
you could call it Brian K. Morris's back issues.
There we go. Well, not that I have an ego or anything, but just
nothing
saying.
wrong with an ego. It depends what you do with it.
Exactly. So that's why I try to keep myself in check. That's why I've got Cookie.
An ego will get you to the moon.
That's true. That's true. Well, that's why I use that old Robbie Williams line, the ego has landed. So oh, it's so nice. I'm an old Anglophile. So nice to be able to say things like that. Somebody knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, Brian Robbins says, good morning, Glenn. We need to snag you for the Dastardly Dingoes podcast sometime soon. Glenn, you would have a great time.
I'd love to be on.
Excellent. And Ryan's got Bobby Nash on the latest, and I quote, check it out, or good afternoon, rather, friggin' future man, you. And check out Ryan's stuff. And Steve was not there. Yes, Steve was not there. Sorry to say.
He's not been around for a while.
That's right. And check out Ryan's his need for other guests, and also Sarah full body chills every time I see this video. That's not even close to how the full video must be. Yeah. And Brian Rahman says that's such a great trailer, Glenn. Very excited to back this. And from Odessa Small Press Publisher, loved your show Saturday night, sir, and congratulations on your nominations. All right. And two of my favorite people in publishing, morning and afternoon to you. Good morning, Joe D. McPhee. Check him out Saturday nights. Check out last episode from this Small Press Publisher, part of the Rising Tide Network. And what's up, Brian? Hello, Glenn. Roy Draws. Good to see you, my friend. And let's see. And we've already answered that. Will Schuyler, good morning to you, darling. Kind of like my interviews. I love hearing my guests tell their stories. Yeah. Yeah. I almost feel it's an intrusion almost when I give my opinion. But yeah, I do like the conversational stuff more than anything. And too many people on the couch, kind of like the green room Friday nights. And we'll smush, Carly. Yeah, somebody can sit on my lap. That'd be fine. And anyway, and Glenn's like, what did I let myself in for? Anyway, and I just had I just had a comment. Thank you for your tolerance, Glenn. Anyway, panel interviews type show depend too heavily on whether or not the moderator can handle all the personalities at one time.
Yeah.
That's a good comment, I think.
Too much information. The thing is that if you've got a podcast or a TV interview show, whatever you call it, if you see that one person is interesting enough to be on the show, why have 5 others on with them? Because they're all as interesting. Give them all their own hour or 30 minutes, but don't have 15 people on, because it doesn't work. Yeah. Because somebody always takes over. Like Ricky Gervais will take over, and he's funny. Stephen Fry is a very intelligent man. He took over a Graham Norton show, and I like Stephen Fry. He's very intelligent, he's very witty, and I like to listen to him. But the other 3 people didn't get a word in. And on the other side of it, wasn't Robert De Niro on Norton a while back? And Robert De Niro doesn't speak, does he?
No.
He doesn't say anything. So it's not that he's not interested, or the work he's done is brilliant, but he doesn't say anything. He's not really a good guest, is he? He doesn't speak. He just goes. Yeah, that's it. Talking to me,
Well, we had a show over here called From the Actor's Studio with James Tipton, where it was like a one-on-one with an actor or something. And Russell Crowe was on one time, and he spent the whole interview staring at his knees and kind of mumbling through the interview. And it's not great television, but you see him in all these 5 roles.
He thinks he's Brando.
Well, then he should. No, he's not. He should have stuck to like Brando and not do interviews. So it was almost painful to watch. You see somebody who's horribly shy, and you want to pull them out because they've got something to say.
I mean, I know what's he called? He's been in trouble. What's he called? Spacey, Kevin Spacey. He was on that show, wasn't he? And he does all the impressions, and he's really interesting. And it's just a shame that things went that way, for him and all that. But you need well, it's a talk show, isn't it? There's a clue, isn't there?
Right,
talk show. you know, guest on a podcast. There's a clue there, you know.
Yeah. Well, and also, especially a lot of modern shows now are driven by promotion.
Yes.
Now Glenn has stuff. I admit it. Glenn has something, and I'm proud to promote it because I want everyone to know about this thing. But Glenn's also got something to say. Glenn's fascinating on his own, I think. And so that's why he's here. But we are going to be mentioning the Jack Kirby project more than once if I have my say about it, and I do. But I'm saying, that I, like when you see somebody on like the Tonight Show or one of our nighttime, talk shows here, that they're there because their promoter, their publicist got them there, and that's what they're there to talk about. Maybe one or two anecdotes about the production, but look at how we've, I find you fascinating because you've done so much and you're doing so much, and that's what I think people need to hear about.
I'm trying to do a lot, Brian. People would say that I am very trying.
I'd never say that. Let me consult with Ted about that. You wait till I'm hosting the Truth Monger. One of these days, Glenn. One of these days, we'll put you in your place. Anyway, let's see, and let's we're gonna skip some of the comments. Everyone's and Sarah's asking about your video. So it's kind of, since you've done some manipulation over the original, it's kind of like the director's cut, right?
It's called the final cut. It's the final cut. And another thing about it is that I want to sort of wrap it up and not think I should put that out. I should write that. I want this to be like a final thing for me. I'd obviously mention Kirby in other ways, but as a product, I don't think there's anything more I can contribute other than my time with him. And I think it's obviously unique. Not a lot of people. Well, a lot of people might have met him, but they certainly weren't in the situation I was. I don't know of anybody else who did this kind of thing. Right. Not that they didn't. I don't know about it. Right. I want it to be a final cut for me. There isn't anything. There won't be anything after this, and so it's the final cut. And so get it while you can.
Right. Well, would there be anybody currently living that you might grab a camera if they invited you and said, hey, would you like to have lunch?
Yeah, lots of people. Yeah, I'd like to talk to Martin Scorsese.
Ooh, yeah.
Those kind of people. Yeah, lots of things, lots of people. Well, I'd like to talk to Buzz Aldrin. He's one of the. I think there's only 4 out of the 12 moonwalkers left.
I think you're right.
But Buzz Aldrin, he wants the big bucks. Not that the others wouldn't want paying, but he wants the big bucks.
Right.
But I'd like to talk to him. Yeah, he's an interesting man.
Oh yeah, Buzz Aldrin. If you're watching right now, please let my friend Glenn interview you. Just a favor to me. I'll even have you on the show here. I'll let you read comments.
One of the things that I will never do now, which is to my regret, and it would be money that stopped me doing it in the first place, was that on Apollo 12, the 4th man on the moon was Alan Bean, Pete Conrad and Alan Bean, right? And Alan Bean is the artist, and he did oil paintings when he came back from the moon. He did Skylab, and then he left NASA, and he'd made oil paintings. Have you seen them make the oil paintings he does? Well, he did that. And one of my ambitions was to get a lot of money, and get in touch with Alan Bean and say, look, I'm going to give you $100,000. Let me live in your house for a week, and let me talk to you and film you while you're doing one of your paintings.
Oh, yeah.
But obviously, he died, and I don't have £100,000 to. Well, I don't have £100,000. I'm going to say to not throw away, but to spend on that. But I don't have that kind of money anyway. But I would have done if I'd have had the money. I'd have contacted him.
Oh yeah.
I know where he lives.
Oh, there we go.
Or where he lived, I should say.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, and also Glenn knows when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been bad or good, too. So.
Well, you know that I'd never sleep anyway, so
That's true. You're up at all hours. Anytime I'm up there, you're there.
I am omnipotent.
That's right. And that's the sleep deprivation talking right now, folks.
It is,
so
it is, yeah.
From that's a Small Press Publisher, from all the talks that Glenn and I had about this project, I'm going to study the video and books looking for specific Easter eggs. There is some great history and unknown stories in them. So
one of the greatest things he said to me, Jack Kirby, was that he said, you see what I see, because I showed him some of my work, some of the storytelling aspects. Yeah. And that's one of the greatest. I'm not saying I'm as good as him, because I'm not. But for him to say that, and I really believe that he just wasn't saying it. Yeah. But I said to him, well, you showed me how to do it. Yeah. You know, you showed me. So that's one of my great things that he said.
Well, that's when I talk to newer artists, I tell them study the work of Kirby and study the storytelling. And, again, not to make this about me, but when I'm currently writing a comic script for somebody, and when I do, I keep somebody like Jack Kirby in mind.
Yeah.
And, when you do that, the visuals tell the story. The words just give nuance, so you can follow what a person or people are doing to get from point A to B to C to D, but it's your words that bring out the character and everything.
Yeah.
Plus, you have so good at body language and expression.
I always say to people that a comic book is like a silent movie.
Yes.
You watch Chaplin, you watch Buster Keaton.
Yeah.
And they show you what's happening. You don't need to know that the guy's name is Phil.
Yeah.
He's just this bumbling guy or whatever he's doing. Mm-hmm. And that's what the words do. The words are the scenery, aren't they? The Fantastic Four, Reed Richards. You don't need to know that. You need to, but Kirby is a master at storytelling. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And people should learn. And there are other people like John Romita and Gene Colan and Gil Kane, all the masters. Yeah. I don't know about today's comics, because I have to say I don't look at them. Mm-hmm. I might just glance at them in the shop, but I don't read them. I don't buy them, because I just see rehashes of old stuff. I see stories that are just twisted for the sake of twisting it. They just seem to do what wasn't done before. Mm-hmm. Just to put us. And I can't believe that there isn't anybody out there with lots of stories, because I know one, me. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're no good.
Yeah. Well, and I also look at a lot of comics and see the proliferation of dialogue. And there's something in me that says, would they have needed to do that, aside from feeling like they have to make an equal contribution to what the reader gets? Yeah. But would they need to do that if they had a Jack Kirby or a John Buscema or a Kurt Swan, somebody who could clearly tell the story visually?
Yeah. Well, this is why I lost it with the X-Men back in the 80s when Chris Claremont was writing it, because I always felt that he should write a book.
Yeah, and he has written some novels.
Well, maybe he has, I don't know, but I'm just saying that he shouldn't have been on. Not that it wasn't good, but it wasn't. I didn't like it. It was too wordy. I don't want that. That's not a comic book to me. That's a book.
Yeah.
He may have written books, and they may be great books. I'm sure they are, but I didn't like his. Is the word verbose?
Yeah.
But again, that's just my opinion. I know it was a best-selling thing and all that kind of thing, and John Byrne on the art and all that, and just absolutely stunning artwork. But I don't like all that words, and that's why Stan Lee was so good, because he knew the secret of word economy. Mm-hmm. He, less is more. One of those things. The picture tells you what's happening, and I'll just tell you. He will just tell you the name of things and not massive word balloons.
Exactly. Yeah. And I also, and this is something else we could explore, is like when Claremont was working with John Byrne or with Dave Cockrum or a Paul Smith, there was more of an economy of words there than when he was working with other less experienced artists, in which case, so. But that's another issue for another day. Rick Bradley says, I say, let them have your front door key. Let them break in and deal with Cookie. They will regret their life choices. That's probably true. That's probably true. And Pop Culture Avenger says, good morning to me. And hello, Glenn. Good morning to you.
Hi, Paul.
Yes. And Comics Talks with Pop Fans says, Joe will be looking for Easter Island eggs now. And Glenn lives in the future, says Sarah. And everyone's saying, He does. He's just visiting us. That's why Doctor Who takes place in England. There is a reason.
Now, what you've got to remember is that all time is happening at the same time.
That's true. That's true. And let's see. Pops Van Zandt says, I've never paid for a digital, but if I did, I wouldn't pay more than $5. Pop Culture Avenger doesn't buy digital. I personally do, because it's easier to carry up a flight of stairs, and I'm elderly. Scott Cracker says, I'm a 20th century digital boy. I don't know how to read, but I've got a lot of toys from Bad Religion. Thank you. And Sarah only uses digital for doing beta reading and reviewing, sending reviews of screenshots. That's just the beginning of something in the works. And the Scott Cracker says, New York City is the best place on earth. That's a really funny way of spelling Vancouver.
Well, I've not been to Vancouver, so I don't know.
Well, there you go. There you go. And from the Desktop Small Press publisher to Grant Lankard, as a person who sells a 50-plus page comic at $5 in print, I'm often told that I undervalue the comics. So it depends on the content and what you think is fair. And Sarah loves seeing you laugh, Glenn. It makes her happy. and from this Small Press publisher, Glenn, don't forget to show them the new Hatch page you showed me. Promote that bad boy. We can do that. And Skullcracker says, all jokes aside, I'm actually curious as to what part of the UK Glenn lives. Being that I'm such a big nerd for everything regarding the Isles, I've got to say I'm rather curious. What part of England do you live in?
I live in the northwest in a place called Manchester.
Where Davy Jones was born.
He was, yeah. I saw Davy Jones and the Monkees.
Oh,
I
cool.
saw them back in 1967 when they were the biggest thing on the planet.
Right.
I lived in a place called Alkrington, which is in Middleton, which is in Manchester. Right. I lived in Alkrington, and about 300 yards from my house, I lived in a cottage near a lake. And on the other side of the lake, about 300 yards away, is a place called Lake Drive, because it's next to the lake. And Samantha Just was dating Mickey Dolenz,
right? And
she lived on Lake Drive. So we knew her before she was on Ready, Steady, Go, or whatever it was called. Right. And then all of a sudden, she's going out with Mickey Dolenz. Saw this on the TV, and this is the girl 300 yards away, who we all know. Yeah. So I was going to see my friend Tim, who lived up that way as well. And then there was all this commotion, and I looked towards Lake Drive and Samantha's house, and the Monkees fell out the front door with her, got in a car, and zoomed off.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That is neat. Very neat. Michaela Jade, good morning to you. Hey there, working today. In my pocket you go. Don't forget tonight, Michaela Jade's Tidbits and Scribbles at 7 p.m. Try to be there. You will be glad you are. And Ted Davies Artistry says, the Truth Mongers will have a new guest co-host this week. Sorry, Glenn. Hopefully we can get you back on the show soon.
Soon? Tomorrow.
And he's just kidding. He's just kidding. He couldn't do it without you. So
he could.
Yeah.
I think he has.
Not yet. But well, yeah, he has. I'm sorry, Glenn. It was the allure of easy money. You know what I'm saying? Which, by the way. And Scott Cracker says, I guess London, but he could be from Manchester or Liverpool or Hammersmith. Very good guess there. So I figured I might as well.
If I was from London, I'd talk like that. Talk like that, right? But I don't. I talk like I talk, which is Manchester.
There you go. Well, that's actually closer to like what I've heard called BBC English.
What, me or London?
Yeah, no, London. It's downtown London.
Yeah, London would speak posh.
Mm-hmm.
They would talk like that, like the Queen.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't speak like that.
That's fine with us. And 17 watching a 13 likes. She's cracking the cat whip, Sarah, but she likes to do that. Please give us a reaction, like, love, whatever, depending on where you are. And back in the stereo box, good morning to you. Happy Monday, friends and foes. And the Eternals has been a series I've been going back and forth for collecting. Interesting, says Sarah. Well, what about the Eternals speaks to you, Glenn? You know, you said you liked them and you liked how Kirby was arranging things, but what really would you say to somebody like Sarah, what is the heart of the Eternals?
It's not, to me, it's not so much the actual book. It's like I said earlier, it's the experience and the master artwork in there that Kirby brings it could have been Mickey Mouse. It's just it's the energy that he brings, and I think that's what a lot of people get, and I think a lot of people miss. I'm not saying Sarah, but a lot of people don't understand why they don't understand Kirby. I think is because he's right in your face. There's no subtlety, although there can be subtlety in the storyline. I'm talking about the artwork. It's very powerful, very raw, and the Eternals to me, it didn't quite get where it was going because it was cancelled or whatever happened. But if you read the first few issues, the premise of what's going on is it's absolutely brilliant with the ancient gods and all this alien stuff and all this stuff. It's just amazing. But like I said, the thing that makes it stand out for me is the background to it. Kirby, his experience, and all that was coming through, I think. But like I said, he was getting to be 60 then, and he got out of comics for a while. He went to animation and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also Kirby was incredibly with it. I don't think he got enough credit for being as young a thinker as he was. I mean, it's more than just knowing the fashions of the day and all, but at the time the Eternals was going, we were caught up in the Eric von Däniken Chariots of the Gods things, and he managed to find a way to really filter it into the comics language.
Yeah.
And,
he's also sorry.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, please go ahead.
He's also very innovative because if you look at Star Wars, it's clearly the new gods. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Alien, in Alien, when they get in that spaceship and there's that big guy in that telescope thing and he's dead. Well, that drawing is in the Eternals at the beginning, that drawing, a similar, and Ridley Scott, I would say, at least saw that and was influenced, or maybe Geiger was influenced by that. So he's very innovative, and he there's a lot of stuff. We're going to be covering this on Wednesday night in the Truth Mongers, I think, with the source, because he's. I don't want to give too much away for the show on Wednesday. I'm not going to talk about that. I can't. That'll give.
Okay, we'll stop you. Then, okay, we'll stop you. We'll mute you on that one. Right. And Rick Bradley says, as a kid, I caught the 12-issue limited run of the Eternals, and I would love to get a hold of Jack's run. I'd have to check Hoopla and see if they have it. They do have it. It is out in trade paperback.
I have them all from the original time, and I've got the annual, which is very rare. Apparently.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And Grant Lankard asks, what do you think of Neil Gaiman and John Romita Jr.'s Eternals? It's a big old shrug for me, if you were wondering.
I didn't like it at all. Not that Neil Gaiman and John Romita Jr. aren't good creative people, but I think it missed the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I read it. I saw it in the library. I got it. I didn't buy it. I got it from the library, and I sat down and read it, and I thought, disappointing. From two great creative people, it was disappointing to me.
Which, in a way, is kind of like, reflective of Kirby's work, in that a lot of people draw from it, but they can't really capture that same.
Some things should be left alone.
Yeah.
This is the point of the changing Spider-Man all the time, because I've said this before. When I was a kid and I was reading Spider-Man and all those comics, the stories were about Peter Parker, who was Spider-Man. But now they're about Spider-Man, and you're Spider-Man if you put the costume on.
Yeah.
Well, no. You're Captain America if you put the costume on. Well, no, you're not. Steve Rogers is Captain America. And those are the subtleties, I think, from what I've seen in the mainstream now, are missing. It's about, like, Iron Man. If you put the Iron Man suit on, you're Iron Man. Well, you're not. You're not.
Yeah, and they've explored that too. There was a period when Denny O'Neil was writing Iron Man, and that's when they brought in James Rhodes to be Iron Man. Or earlier they had a guy named Eddie Marsh, and it was not the suit that made the hero. It was the hero that made the hero. The person inside the name. That's why when people were losing their minds over Superman losing his trunks during the New 52, and I'm like, that's not ruining Superman's character. It has nothing. His attire has nothing to do with Superman.
I've got an idea for a Superman novel that I won't be able to write because I'd probably get not what I'm writing about, but I don't think it would fit into anything DC would want, because I'll give you a clue, and it's probably not a new idea.
Right.
Everybody on the planet would be scared to death of Superman. How they would hate him. A lot of people would hate him.
Yeah.
And my story is about him dealing with it.
I think, yeah, I would love to write that story myself. Well, even Kirby touched on that in Forever People #1, where Clark Kent is looking out the window. He's just talked to this boxer who is like, he's the champ, and yet he feels inadequate because he knows Superman could kill him by just listening hard. And Clark is looking out the window of the Daily Planet office and telling, just thinking to himself, do people really fear Superman? Do they hate him? And that's something that that's why I was so happy when he was doing Jimmy Olsen, because I would have loved to have seen him deal with that. And even Superman himself was dealing with it when he got to go to Supertown on New Genesis, and everyone could do what he could do and better. And so he's just kind of mopey about it. And I'm like, I thought that was one of Kirby's best storylines. And Sarah's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's getting back to what we were talking about before, about why the Eternals is so good. That's why Jimmy Olsen is so good. It just shows you what you can do with anything if somebody like Kirby gets hold of it. Because Jimmy Olsen's Jimmy Olsen, isn't he? You know what I mean? But it's nothing, is it? But he brought it into it, because the story is that Carmine Infantino wanted to give him whatever he wanted, and Kirby said, "No, give me a worst selling book."
Yes.
And then he turned it into that.
Yeah. And he really rewrote the template for Jimmy Olsen, because from that time before, he was almost, especially in his own book, he was either the person that asked the hero questions that the reader needed to know, or he was Archie Andrews and tripping over everything and turning into Turtle Boys and stuff. But Kirby portrayed Jimmy Olsen as his own hero, and at one point he tells Superman, "I don't need you. I've got the signal watch, and if I need you, I'll call you. But until then, I don't need your help." And this set the tone for Olsen till the end of his original run, where he was a man of action. They called him Mr. Action, in fact. And unfortunately, a newer generation has forgotten that.
See, I think that DC at that point in 1970, what a massive coup to get Kirby on board.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But when they got him, it was like they just had they'd got one over on Marvel. And okay, you've got the master creator, and then it was like, what are we going to do with him now?
Yeah, all they know how to do is create monthly or bi-monthly, quarterly books, and Kirby came in as an IP generator. Just look at, if you read Jack Kirby Collector, look at all the stuff that never saw print, never got beyond Jack's drawing board, but he had all these really wild concepts. And they ran with a few of them, but for the most part, they just wanted him to be a cog in the machine. But Sarah brings up, there are many intertwinings that happen in one story arc. It starts to get confusing. The Eternals will not, under the Kirby run, because like Glenn said, he was apart from Marvel continuity. He kind of stood outside in his own little universe, and he does have a crossover with the Hulk, but it's not the Hulk. But you'll see it when you read it. And I think
he also brings S.H.I.E.L.D. into it, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
The agents are watching what's going on, so they're bringing it in that way as well.
That's true, but it wasn't like any of the big guns. He created his own version. Or his own agents for it, which was good. And BKM, I would love to be a part of a back issue show like that on CBS. You're in, buddy. You're in. And sorry, I'm not reading that. Oh, I'll read it. Sarah, I leave Cookie to take care of BKM's backside issues. Thank you for that. Medically speaking, and Cookie's back there going, Sarah Ted has a spectacular way of interviewing the people behind their careers. He is a good interview, really. And Grant Lanker says, I hate doing panel shows. There's always one guy who will monopolize the conversation. Dude, I'm in the room. Did you not see I'm here? Anyway, so you end up listening to their boring stories and don't get to plug your book. Well, here's the thing. Don't be boring either. No, it's like my motto for my shows is I don't care what you have to sell. I care what you have to say. Glenn has a lot to say. And the fact that he's got a book, I'm privileged to be able to tell you about it. So, and the Historical Fencing Guild. Good morning, Nevermore. This is a unique and interesting piece of comic history. Thank you. Amy Hale, mwah, glad to have you here. Amy, check out authoramyhale.com and check out her amazing books. And Glenn is a trying person, says Jody McPhee from the Desperate Small Press Publisher. He does try most things at least once.
Yeah, I do try go for it, because I think that anybody can do anything once, but can they do it again?
That's the key. It's like I tell people, I talk to people like, well, I don't want to tell you about my comic book character. He could be the next Superman. And I'm like, Siegel and Schuster never did the next Superman. What are you talking about, man? A better chance than anyone. Sarah says, I can easily see the documentary being a staple in people's libraries around the world, which makes me wonder if you've thought of doing subtitles or dubbing in the future. Also, I would add to that foreign language editions, Glenn.
Well, it is subtitled.
Yeah, good.
And as for foreign languages, it costs a lot of money. So maybe in the future.
Yeah, good, cool. So everybody, please buy several copies of this book. No, I think I've just seen what little I have and knowing how amazing Glenn is. I keep using that word on you. Sorry, buddy.
That's all right. Don't mind.
Yeah, I've got half an hour to stop, right? But anyway, no, knowing the care that this man takes with his projects, I think this is going to be one of those that it should be on everyone's shelves if you are interested at all in the history of comic books, and we all should be, because it's a rich history. It really is, and it's
I think what people should do is buy the new one and then insist that I make the first one available so they can have bookends and I get paid twice.
There you go. See, it works out for everyone. That's very rising tide. And for the Desperate Small Press Publisher, Sarah Glenn did say in one of my interviews that this Jack Kirby project is one of the last that the content is exclusively owned by him and not the Kirby estate.
Yes. I did offer it them, but they didn't want it.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that? Did they tell you?
No.
Okay. Well, not that it's any of our business, but I'm nosy.
No, they didn't want it. So
weird. That's weird. Anyway, it is a rare documentary in that aspect. Also, it is one of the few videos of Jack that can still be published in this way. Well, in truth, there are not a whole lot of Kirby interviews that are done in such a informal, I should say, setting.
Yeah.
I've seen him do talk. I think I recall him being on the Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder at one point.
Yeah.
And little interviews here and there, but he wasn't quite the in your face promoter that somebody like, say, a Stan Lee was.
Yeah, well, you see, there's this thing, isn't there? I think what I captured, when you see Jack Kirby being interviewed, he's Jack Kirby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I filmed Jack Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I mean? Like when you see Paul McCartney on a show, it's Paul McCartney, but at home he's Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? There's two different people.
It's public persona versus the real person.
Yeah.
I keep talking about me, but not me.
Yes.
We all do that who are in the public line.
Yeah. And when we do it to an extent, come in on these things.
Right.
Right. I mean, because I know that you're nothing like this at home, Brian, because I've watched you.
Guilty.
But do you see what I mean? There's the public, there's a public persona, and there's the real person, and I think I caught some of the real person. If only because of what he talks about. It's not all about comics.
Yeah. And the thing I find, what I really catch with Kirby in interviews, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it here, is like when he went from being under the umbrella of Stan Lee's dialogue or Stan Lee edited versions of his dialogue, which would turn into Stan Lee dialogue. He went to DC and he's his own editor finally, and all of his stuff, and he used to get knocked in the fan press for his dialogue, that it was a little peculiar, a little offsetting from, the Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, Gardner Fox, John Broome sort of thing. And then I heard him in an interview one time, and it's like, oh my gosh, he actually talks like that. He's talking, his characters are talking like Jack. And I got a brand new appreciation for his dialogue in that way. And then to find out that he was using like quotation marks around things. And I remember Kirby would like draw out his dialogue on the art boards,
Yes.
and he put the quotation marks as a way to tell the letterer, okay, this is, everything's supposed to be standing up straight lettering except for these things in quotes, and they're supposed to be bold and italicized. And that was how he did that. But the letterer took him literally and put the quotation marks in, which I admit at first it put me off on a lot of his dialogue, but then once I understood that, I'm like, okay, and it's a unique sort of voice, which is another thing I think Jack brought to comics, not just the visuals, but also his voice and his beliefs in so many ways, like talking about the gods, like Thor and the new gods and the Eternals, but never losing the ground level aspect of the humans who are forced to interact with them and how the encounter affects both of them.
So I think also it's like with music, people, I can remember, you probably can, Brian, back in the early 70s when people were complaining to people like McCartney and Lennon that they didn't sound like the Beatles.
Yeah.
They did in a way, but they were themselves after that. Right. And it's the same with, we were so immersed and entrenched in Stan Lee verbiage that when the core was exposed, which was Kirby, it was a jolt. It was like, what is this guy talking about? But he was talking about that in 1966 in the FF. It's just that somebody else, Stan Lee, wrote over it and changed it to the way Stan Lee would talk. But I do like that stuff. Let's not, I'm not here to knock Stan Lee, because he was a major part in all that, if not the major part. Well, it wouldn't be the major. He's got to have something to sell, hasn't he? But he's a salesman. Stan Lee's a salesman.
Yeah.
And his words are okay. They're a bit cheesy, but they work. That's why they were so popular.
Exactly.
So
I agree. Sarah has a question. If you were to do this again with someone else, who would you choose? I'm going to narrow it down. Who in comics would you do this with now? Or is there anyone you would want to do this with?
Anybody sort of living or dead through time. I would like to have interviewed 3 people from my past that they're all dead now. Frank Bellamy, who used to draw Garth and Thunderbirds. Mike Noble, who used to draw Captain Scarlet in TV21. I don't know whether you've seen his work. Check it out.
I have seen his work, yes. I've seen some of Captain Scarlet.
And Don Lawrence, who did the Rise and Fall of the Trigon Empire. There was nobody draws better than those 3 guys. No one.
Oh man, yeah.
They are up there with Kirby.
Yeah.
Frank Bellamy, Thunderbirds, is just something to behold, But he died in 1976. He was 59, I think he died. The same age as Kirby. But Kirby obviously lived a lot longer. But yeah, those 3, those are 3 English people I'd like to interview. But I'd like to talk to everybody. I'd like to talk to Will Eisner, Gil Kane, John Romita Senior. I think he's about 90. Is he 91 now? Something.
He's in his 90s. He's been around a while. He's still alive, last I heard.
Yeah, and anybody. Bill Everett. I mean, how good was Bill Everett? There's just so many people. I'll tell you who I'd like to talk to and see work. Sam Rosen and Artie Simek, the letterers.
Oh, yes.
Very underrated.
Oh yeah.
I'm always banging on about that. The lettering, but.
I'm with you on that.
Lots of people.
Yeah, and it's the people like the letters and some of the colorists. Stan Goldberg, for instance, didn't get a lot of attention when he was doing a lot of coloring for the early Marvels.
Yeah.
But once he stepped out and started doing more penciling, then he gets the attention, and it was deserved. But yeah, I would love to talk to some of the letters. John Costanza.
Yeah.
Always one of my favorites, and why no one sat down and talk to Gasper Saladino is beyond me.
Yeah.
Because he lettered how much for DC and for Marvel and other people. Yeah, I'd
like to know how many pages those lettering guys did in a day. I think in the 60s they were paid $11 a page.
Yeah.
I bet they were doing 10 and 12 pages a day. I bet they were doing half a book.
Yeah.
They'd have to do to make some kind of living, but I bet they were brilliant.
Well, I read somewhere, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that guys like Rosen and Simek could do letter a page in about an hour. So multiply that by however long they wanted to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they for 1960s money, that would have been pretty decent.
Yeah.
So, and they were artists in their own regard,
Yes.
because
Yes.
a lot of people don't realize that when you're lettering, you're drawing the letters.
Yeah.
It's art on itself.
And also, what I'd like to ask them as well, especially Artie Simek and Sam Rosen, because they did so many pages of all the Marvel books in those days, is don't forget, apart from people in the production office and Stan Lee, they were the only people who saw those pages without anything on, those pencil pages. Because when Joe Sinnott would get the FF, it would be lettered. So Joe Sinnott didn't see the pencil pages before they were lettered.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting story about Joe Sinnott. I saw an interview with him where he said that he lost money inking Kirby because when he got a package, the first hour of his day, you're just looking at the pages.
Yeah. I can see that. And I've read interviews with people that worked in the production office, and they would all, with a package would come in from Kirby, they'd all be crowding around, looking, staring, studying.
Yeah.
And there was a story that one time Kirby brought some pages, Stan rejected them.
Whole pages, and he ripped them up,
Yeah, and Jack was so angry he threw them in the trash, and Larry Lieber, Stan's brother, ran over and rescued those pages.
I bet he did, yeah.
And he was one of the guys who could draw like Kirby and understood how Kirby worked.
Yeah.
The balance in his figures and the unique lighting and such. Grant Lankford has a question. I don't know if I agree that Stan Lee was economic in his dialogue. Compared to some, he was.
Compared to Claremont, he was.
Yeah. Or Don McGregor, who I like Claremont and McGregor, but anyway, that brings up an interesting question. Knowing you're a diehard Jack Kirby fan, I'm curious how you feel about Stan Lee. I feel it's fashionable and unfair to crap on him nowadays.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say I don't do that. I don't crap on Stan Lee. I think he was tremendous. I think he did a lot of. Let me boil it down to this.
Yeah.
I don't believe Stan Lee created all that stuff. That's my only argument. I'm not saying he wasn't any good. I'm not saying he wasn't brilliant. He was. He was Lennon McCartney. They were Lennon McCartney. Yeah.
That's a good analogy, Grant. That really is about you don't have to choose one. You can like them both. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think personally, and I'm just looking at this as an outsider, I think Kirby's influence on things like Thor and Fantastic Four, the books he regularly worked on, increased as Stan got busier promoting.
Yeah.
And Stan started giving more of his stuff to his assistants like Gary Friedrich and Roy Thomas. But,
we said before about Kirby finally being the editor. I think that he needed an editor.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about Lennon McCartney, if you look at all their albums through the 70s, which I'm sure you've listened to, Brian, because I do and still do.
Oh yeah.
You can see where the other guy might have made an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And George Martin as well. They needed. He was the editor, wasn't he? He was the producer. He was the editor. They needed him, because if you look at Paul McCartney's solo albums, there's Band on the Run. There's Ram and Band on the Run that he produced that are brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next two are Tug of War and Pipes of Peace with George Martin. So there's a clue there.
Yeah.
All the rest are okay, but they're not, in my opinion, they're not his best.
Yeah.
And it's good to collaborate and throw things against each other,
Right. Yeah. And it's a different way to collaborate with somebody that like a John Lennon, who you occasionally are like this with, and your wife,
Yeah, that's right.
who generally agree with you, except in my case. But anyway, but no, I know you make a good point that, and the story I'm always using is I read an article about Archie Goodwin, who is arguably one of the best writers and editors in comics, and was an editor-in-chief at Marvel for a couple of years. And he said that he liked other people editing him, that he preferred it to editing himself. And I figure if somebody as good as Archie Goodwin, who could write like Kirby, could do almost any genre, and if he's saying I like an editor, then that's a lesson for the rest of us.
Yeah.
So let's see. Damian Waldron, who, by the way, redesigned my my website, please go there and sign up for the free monthly newsletter. # always promote, even if your guest has something to sell. Anyway, says Glenn, have you ever considered turning this project into a graphic novel?
I did, but there's one out there that's far superior to what I could do. I think I could only. I don't think it would. I don't think I could justify the time producing the artwork of a chat with me. You'd need the other elements, and there's a guy on YouTube somewhere, and he's published one which is Kirby's life. He might not have the little anecdotes that I do, but it's Kirby's life, and I think that's the right one. So like I say, I couldn't. I'd like to do it because I'd like to do everything, but I couldn't justify it to myself, never mind anything else, to produce my graphic novel about my visit to his house.
Yeah. And Skunk Cracker says, OMG, Glenn doing a Shav accent. Holy crap, was that funny? It was good, Glenn. And Carl Wisman says, once I make my millions, we're moving to Hebden Bridge, UK, because it's supposed to be a cesspit of the arts, and that fascinates me.
It's pretty good there, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, nice place.
There's places like that here in America. I'm living here in one, so it's all good. And let's see, here we go. Scott Crocker says, "Oh, and Glenn, I don't know if you're a big television watcher or not, but can you extol the virtues of Channel 4 for all the Americans who only know about the BBC?"
No, it's just another channel. It has some superior stuff on, but because the TV over here, we're struggling with it. Helen and I are struggling with the TV. We're thinking about throwing the TV in the river because there's a lot of rubbish on it. It's I don't know what it's like in America now, but we don't have satellite TV because it's just more crap to not watch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What is the old Bruce Springsteen song about 500 channels and nothing on?
Yeah. He's right there though. Channel 4 is better than the BBC. All the channels are better than the BBC. BBC are getting a lot of hammering at the moment, but and they deserve it because they're not producing good stuff, and they can't. I've said about Doctor Who. I don't watch Doctor Who. I've not watched Doctor Who since Eccleston, and the reason for that is because again they've got this fantastic idea, this fantastic concept, but they still can't make up their minds 60 years on whether it's for children or adults, and it should be about. They should do both, but it should be an adult program. And by that, I don't mean sex and all that. I mean hard stories. But in my opinion, they can't make up their minds what they've got. Is it for kids? Is it for this? And now there's all this diversity rubbish that's going around the world. And I'm not going to apologize for that because it's there. And it's just spoiling everything. Everything is being torn down. And I'm getting pissed off with that.
Oh, we can't have that. We're not going to do that. And Sarah says, thank you for your thoughts about the Eternals. Well, now I'm rethinking my long-term opinion about sci-fi. I love stories about old gods and goddesses. And the Eternals is a good place to start. Again, as far as I'm concerned, it begins and ends with Kirby. Nobody really captured what Kirby brought to the table. And especially when you start mixing like the Marvel Universe. And I do recommend, Sarah, read the Eternals trade paperback before you go see the movie. So, and
I don't think I'll be going to see the movie at all. I've heard some reports on it, so
I'd probably see it because I like a good train wreck as much as the next thing. Actually, I saw Shang-Chi and I was very happy with that. Oh, and Top Gear when it had Clarkson, May, and Hammond. That's why the Grand Tour exists. I know who you're talking about, Clarkson. Yeah. And let's see. And when people started complaining about Superman's trunks missing, says Rick Bradley, I said, hey, at least he's not split into a blue and red Superman. The 90s were rough. Well, that was because, real quick aside here, that was because the Siegel and Schuster estates were launching their copyright claims on the Superman character, because there is a way under current copyright law that you can get a IP back when you sell it. And they were pursuing that route. And this was their way of making sure they weren't put, it was basically a jab at them. And also so they would have a Superman that they could publish later on. Let's see, here we go. All of Jack Kirby's Eternal stuff is on Marvel Unlimited, worth the $10 a month alone, says Damian Waldron. I fully agree. I also liked his Black Panther run too. Again, he's totally
And-
removed from the Marvel universe.
And
but lots of good
yeah,
acting.
and his run on Captain America at that time was good as well. In the
Yeah.
75 to 78, 77. He did some
Something
really good work. When he did the adaptation of 2001,
Yeah.
which can't be reprinted again for copyright reasons.
Yeah.
It just kills me, this stuff. But and then he did that Devil Dinosaur, which people think, what is this? And well, what it is, what it was going to be was for an animation pitch.
Mhm.
And he turned it into a comic book, and it's not his best, but it's amusing, at least. It's, and then he did the 2001 run that turned into the what's he called,
Machine Man.
Mr. Machine Man. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing that at the time I read about stories about how people inside the Marvel offices were almost trying to sabotage Jack's work by putting in the letter columns, and the sales were decent. The letters were coming in mostly, Jack's great, I love this stuff, but they were printing mostly the negative letters to make people think, well, Jack's lost his touch. He's no longer producing stuff that's in the Marvel universe, which we all know and crave. So this is why Jack had an axe to grind later on.
I think it's called lack of respect, isn't it? Really?
Exactly, that's it exactly. And most of the people doing it weren't worthy to be his floor mat when his shoes were muddy. Anyway, got lunch day, Donna Carly, Carlene, see y'all later, Glenn. It was great seeing you, and I'll see you Wednesday night.
See you, Donna.
On the Truth Mongers. And sorry, gentlemen, I've been awake for almost 20 hours since Dan Hollifield. Time to go so I can work all night tonight. Thank you for a great show. Dan, thank you for being
Dan Hollifield is a wimp. I've been awake for 20 years. So he's got a long time to go. talking about one-upmanship that we're talking about at the top of the
There we
show.
go. Well, Dan will be retiring soon from his day job, so he can stay up all night like you do and rest up, Dan. And hello, Doris Jones, labors of love. Mwah, good morning to you, lovely. Too. Also, Sarah, since the Kirby estate didn't want it, I'm curious about his upbringing and family dynamics. That's just the psych major of interest and curiosity part of my thinking.
They didn't want it. I offered it to them. You saw that's how you sort of knew who I was, not that I'm anybody, because you mentioned the first time we met was I the guy who wrote the article in the Comics Collector.
Right.
And I am. And it was around, when was that, 1998, 99-ish?
Something, you're right. Yes.
I let them, they published a lot of the photographs, I sent them all, I gave them the film, and they sent it back and they said, we don't want it. So I said, okay. So I sat on it for another 10 years and thought, this is stupid just having this piece of film here. Yeah. So I got it digitized and all that. And I thought, well, I can make films. I'll make a film. So I did.
There you go. And if they didn't want any part of it, it's their loss. It would be a chance for them to control the narrative about somebody that so many people love and respect. Grant Lankard, I think some characters Stan contributed more than Jack, such as the X-Men. Other creations, Jack contributed more than Stan, like the Fantastic Four. So I guess it more or less evens out. That would be something, fascinating for people to study, because of the way the Marvel method worked, that it gave more control to the artist. And when you give it to somebody like Jack, that's like unlocking what they can do. And
I disagree with that, Grant. I disagree with that.
Really?
But yeah, I disagree with what he says. Stan contributed more than Jack to the X-Men. I doubt that. I don't know. Nobody knows, but I doubt that.
Well, yeah, that's true, especially since all of the people who were in the office at the time, I can't think of a single one who's alive right now.
What do you mean?
Early Marvel age, like early 60s. Stan, Martin Goodman, they're all gone. Saul Brodsky, Marie Severin might have been there. Stan Goldberg was there as the colorist.
But don't forget, all those people have their allegiances to watch.
That's true. That is true.
It's only my opinion. I can't see how this comment would be so, because the X-Men are pretty good and read like a Jack Kirby comic. So.
Oh yeah.
But I don't want to be bashing anybody, because Stan was brilliant.
He was.
I wish he could be my front man. I wish he could be my front man.
Oh my God,
he's great. He's great.
Yeah, and if I could write half as well or edit half
Yeah.
as well as he could, because he understood story structure.
And I think what he did, one of Stan Lee's strengths was that he could draw this stuff out of people. When I say draw it, I mean pull it from people.
Pull it out of somebody. Yeah.
You know, like George Martin did with the Beatles.
Right.
He pulled. They had little germs of things, and he embellished them
and encouraged them to do more, to the point where some of the stuff the Beatles did later in their career was like standard procedure now, like that artificial double tracking they did, where there's
a great story with George Martin where when they were recording "She Loves You," which is one of their first hits,
right.
You know, "She Loves You," and it ends It ends on a E minor fifth or whatever it is,
right.
And when John Lennon sang that on the demo, sang it for George Martin said, "It's great, but you can't end on an E minor fifth." And John Lennon said, "Why not?"
Yeah.
And the genius of George Martin is that he said, "Yeah, you're right. It sounds good. Let's do it." And it's not an E minor fifth. I don't know about music.
Right. Whatever.
It was something like that.
Yeah.
It hadn't been done before in that way. And George Martin pulled him up about it, and Lennon said, "Why not? Sounds good."
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah."
Well, look how many years people have been trying just to dissect the opening chord to A Hard Day's Night.
Yeah. Well, it's about 6 chords, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like Paul hits one note in one key on his bass. George hits a 12-string acoustic guitar, and John all three are in 3 different keys, and it produces that amazing song. Randy Bachman of the Guess Who and Bachman Turner Overdrive has a beautiful live video. He got an invitation from Giles Martin, George's son, to listen to the digitized original tapes. Wow. And he told how to do it, and Randy is delivering this thing with himself, his rhythm guitarist, and his bass player, and said bass player hits this one, and then then I would hit this with my 6-string electric, and then on the acoustic he would put 12-string, he hits this one note, and they all play separately, and said when you put it together it sounds like this, and bam, you hear that magic note, and then they launch into their version of A Hard Day's Night. But it's like, no, that was the thing. I think I agree with you totally that one of the things Martin did, he wasn't rigid in his thinking. This is how it has to be done. Let's try it. And at the same token, he's teaching them how to be better musicians, to be more innovative too. Yeah,
on Penny Lane, that piccolo trumpet on Penny Lane.
Yes,
Paul McCartney had the melody of that little bit, and he sang it to George Martin, and George Martin said, "I know what you want," and he got the piccolo trumpet guy to come in and play it, and McCartney said, "That's what I can hear in my head." And that was because Paul McCartney, what's a piccolo trumpet? I don't know what that is. Paul McCartney didn't know what it was. Otherwise he would have told him to do it with it. But George Martin could hear it in Paul's voice and knew how he could recreate that, and that's George Martin. That's why he's so the fifth Beatle, isn't he?
Definitely. Or the harpsichord from In My Life. Turns out that wasn't a harpsichord. That was a piano at a different speed.
It was speeded up,
yeah. And so that's how he did that.
And do you know why it was speeded up?
Why is that?
Because they couldn't play it to fit the bar thing, the time. So they speeded it up.
Yeah, and it was Martin that was playing it.
Yeah.
So the more you listen to Beatle music, just like with Kirby and Lee and Kirby and all this stuff, the more you see in it. That's when that's when things start going from ART to capital ART. That's the borderline there. And Carl Wisman, thank you for watching For Breaches. I appreciate that. I appreciate that and appreciate you. And yes, had no idea it was a movie. Yeah, they're running the trailer currently with the Shang-Chi Legend of the Ten Rings right now. Black Panther is another one. I've been pondering this last week, and it's 2 mentioned in this morning show. See, this is the learning place. That's why we have Glenn here. And Glenn, because you'll learn nothing from me. And it's after 11 a.m., so I'll say, Brian, don't die, feed cookie. And Glenn, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It has been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Skunk. Don't forget, Skunk is a regular on Stupid O'Clock Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern and 11 p.m. on Saturday nights. And fair enough, we will never know. And And truth, Grant, his story is getting out there anyway. Exactly. So, and I don't think they could have picked a better truth monger than Glenn B. Fleming to tell his story.
I'm sure. Because
Am I doing anything for your self-esteem, Glenn?
oh yeah, of course you are. You see, people think that I don't want to trash my audience, as it were, but people think that because I went to Jack Kirby's house, I'm an expert. I'm not. I'm an expert on 12 hours I was there.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was doing in 1946. You know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. This, it is like some of us, it's not an interrogation of the man, trying to
That's right,
find all the trash and all the little nitpicky things about his career, but it's what is the man
he
like?
just talks, and he's so enthusiastic, and he's just a nice bloke. There's no sort of ego there with him. I'm sure he was aware of what he did. I'm sure of that, but it didn't come over flash. But he let me in his house. Why would anybody let me in his house? He doesn't know who I am. And I'm sitting down eating lunch with him, and incredible. I could have stayed a lot longer as well.
Oh, I bet. And I have to ask, what did you guys have for lunch?
Ham, salad. So there was some. I remember some rice there, and just a light lunch. Some nice bread and coffee and orange juice and stuff like that.
Nice. That's
and then the second time I went, I had pizza because Jeremy, Jack's grandson, was coming, and Roz said, "I'm going to have to put this pizza under the grill because Jeremy likes it napalmed."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's back in the day. That would have been back in the day. Pizza wasn't as readily available as it is now.
Right.
At least
in 1991.
It was 91. Okay, it was starting to get more prevalent then, but I remember a time when pizza was you might as well have been asking for foie gras, and no mayo, says Doris Jones. That's right. There we go. Yeah. Grant Langer says, I love stories about Jack and his wife. They sound like such a cute couple. They were really together.
Yeah, and as I've said in the interview and everything, she was his rock, and she was a tough lady. She was beautiful. She was a lovely lady, but you wouldn't get through her. If you were going to hurt Jack, I'm telling you, you wouldn't get through her. She was a tough lady, but she was beautiful and kind and generous. But you could see she had his back,
Yeah, we all need someone like that.
We do.
There. Yeah. So anyway, I know you do. She's an awesome lady. And Glenn, Sarah asked, Glenn, what is the favorite comic book you have or have read specifically? Well, I know we know about Fantastic Four, but let me switch that up a little. What is your favorite series?
Eternals.
Yeah. I agree.
I think everything's in there, but it didn't. For me, I think I could see the potential. I could see where it was going. I'm probably wrong, but I'm just talking about what I'm observing. But he didn't quite get there because of he left and all the stuff that happened and everything, which is a shame. Which is what happens all the time. The first thing out the door is always art, isn't it? It's but it's what everybody wants. It's strange.
Yeah, but you look at Kirby's legacy and look how Marvel and DC and even independents, because Jack had worked for independent publishers as well towards the end of his life. He was an independent publisher in the 50s. Yeah. And you see how and I include myself in this, how we all have built on the foundation that Jack helped establish. Mm-hmm. I keep saying we stand on the shoulders of titans in this.
We do, yeah. If you read Silver Star, which was the Pacific comic one, I think it was the last thing he did. I think in comics.
I think so. Pacific Comics. I think.
Yeah.
That's
pretty good. But if you read between the lines on it, it's the Fantastic Four meet Thor, meet New Gods, meet Eternals. There's always the same theme through there.
Yeah.
And Jack used to write stories get a lot of his stories and ideas from the Bible. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or is it the Torah that the Jewish people read?
Yeah, it's the Torah.
Yeah. From that kind of thing. So I don't know whether he was a very religious man or not. I didn't go in. That's a personal thing. I didn't ask him that about. That's not my business. Right. But I get the impression that at least he'd like to read, or at least he'd read that book, and because he got a lot of things out of there, you know. And it's I just wish I could have. I wish I could see him again.
Yeah.
Bit longer and get into those areas, you know.
Yeah.
But that's a personal thing, really. So.
Yeah, but at least you had a few moments with him. You
Yeah,
know?
I think I had about 12 hours with him altogether. There was about I think the first time I went to see him, I think I was there about 8 hours or something. I was there a long time, and then the second time was obviously less. But you know, fantastic experience, and hopefully, what I'm trying to do with this film is get people to at least be with him as I was. I mean, I'm in it and I say things in it, but it's mainly him talking, you know. Yeah. And it really is good.
I'm sure. I'm totally sure it is. I am so looking forward to it. I make no bones about it. And Sarah says it'd be nice to go to Lancashire, where I have extended family. And Grant Laker says, I'm going to go eat lunch. Have a great afternoon, Brian. A great evening, Glenn.
See you, Grant. See you, Grant. See you later.
And I want to thank everyone for being here, because I think it's time to let this wonderful man get back on with his life. But before he does, tell us a little bit more about that great book that you've got coming to Indiegogo, and then we'll run the spot for
it. It's you caught me out there. It's the book is what the book is. It's the transcript of the film, and it's the transcript of the Q&A. And the book is that's intermingled with my experiences of what wasn't captured on film, and the discussions I had with Jack, that I took extensive notes when I left this house. I wrote it all down quickly, so there'll be bits I've missed, but it's basically about that. So it's a run through. The book is 120 pages. It's got 40 photographs in it, 40 odd photographs in it. It's got a bit of my artwork in it, which is Jack is referring to when he said, I see what he sees. And I've even, I mean, not as a filler, but I'm even publishing the pages of my notes, so that people don't just think I've made it up. So the actual handwritten notes are in there as well. It's got an introduction by Randy Zimmerman. We all know Randy. He's a good guy. He knows a lot about comics. It's got an introduction by him, and it's got various things in it, and it's 120 pages, and it'll be coming soon with the DVD.
Oh, not soon enough. And in case you've got your appetite whetted for this, folks, let me give you the big pitch right here.
When they mined an area, they put down yellow tape right across that line, see. And if you walked on the wrong side of that yellow tape, you blew up.
Strange Tales 136. I remember it very clearly, and that was my first exposure to Kirby. And I wanted to show it to people.
Looking forward to that so very much, Glenn. And Damien Waldron says, as an artist who has never had the opportunity to meet Jack, I'm eternally, pun intended, thankful for stuff like this. Ace Bonnie says, I can't wait to get it. Great show. Thank you, Ace. Thank you for being here, my man. Rick Bradley says, everyone take care and stay creative. Time flew this morning. Well, it does when you've got a great guest on here. And yes, we love Zim. We do. And we also love Glenn B. Fleming. Glenn, thank you for being on this morning's show.
Thank you so much. It's been great. And like Sarah said, time has flown, and I can carry on for another 2 hours if you want. It doesn't bother me. But we can't do that.
Because if I did try, I'd have to risk the wrath of my woman because she needs lunch.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly. So we all have our Rozes in this life. We're thankful to have ours. So Glenn, again, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to give you the spotlight one more time. If people want to find you and keep up with your amazing exploits, how can they do this?
Best place and the only only place really is just message me on Facebook, or you can contact me at comicsunlimitedmagazine@gmail.com. I'm trying to find the time to put a new website up, so I'll keep people informed on that, but I can't work on that at the moment because I've got so many things to do. I should do it, should be a priority, but then again, everything's a priority. So Facebook is probably the best place. I'm on Twitter, but I don't go on too much. So just go to Facebook. I'm there.
Sounds good. Glenn, again, thank you so much, my friend. And I'm
Thanks for
going to
having
mute
me.
you. Oh, I appreciate you coming on here. I really do. It's always a delight to talk to you. I'm going to mute you and put you in the background, and I want to say goodbye to you a little more thoroughly when we're done, okay?
Thanks, everybody. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you, Glenn B. Fleming. Thank you. And thank you all for your great comments and questions. Sorry we couldn't read everything, but that's just the way it works. And we're going to run, every now and then we're going to have a special guest on the morning show here, especially since Clever Tile Pending is going to take a hiatus at the end of September to make way for the Dastardly Dingoes coming to the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. We're really excited about that. And from the desk of the Small Press Publisher, great show. Thank you for helping make it that way. And Ted Davies Artistry, great show, guys. Much success. You too, my brother. Hope to talk to you later on. Don't forget Ted Davies Artistry, 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the return of Drinking with the Davies this coming Friday evening, all on the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. But speaking of which, we want to thank our sponsor for this great episode, and that's Plasma Fire Graphics. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you. Check out plasmafiregraphics.com for more examples of Jeffrey Hayes' great work. Also, their Facebook page, and get in touch with them and get them involved with your project. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you, because it matters to your readers, that's for sure. And somebody else that matters to my listeners are the Rising Tide Broadcast Network, a group of like-minded broadcasters who are helping each other raise each other up and bring their audience with them. Please check out our schedule on our Facebook page and give it a like. We've got your programming 7 days a week. Don't forget, Michaela Jade is on every morning with her morning motivationals, and actually Monday through Friday, excuse me. And she'll be on tonight at 7 p.m. on Tidbits and Scribbles because she's awesome. And then tomorrow morning, Ted Davies returns to TED Talks at 10 a.m. in the morning Eastern Time, where he'll talk about his California adventures. And then tomorrow night, we will have Stuart Sager, a great artist on Clever Title Pending. It's all going to be wonderful. So please check out our shows, and also please subscribe to all of our channels and give us a thumbs up or a like wherever you happen to be. Don't forget our YouTube challenge. If we can get 1,100 subscribers by the end of Halloween night, we'll do a special 12-hour edition of Nevermind the Furthermore. It might turn out to be 14, but we'll be doing it the following Friday. So please subscribe to our channel. Please like, share, and give it a thumbs up. Please tingle that little bell, and you'll be notified of all of our appearances. Also, don't forget our Patreon subscribers. We appreciate their support so very much. Patreon is a monthly subscription service where you can send a small financial stipend to your favorite creators, many of whom have their own pages. So please check out our supporters. And if you want to see your name here, please go to www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris and find out how. So anyway, folks, thank you all for being here. Big thank you again to Glenn B. Fleming for being also awesome. And please keep an eye out. We're going to help him promote that book when it comes out about Jack Kirby and Words and Pictures. And you can maybe get into the head of the King of Comics himself. So anyway, folks, we're going to let you have your Monday back, and we'll see you tomorrow night on Clever Tile Pending, and then Wednesday again on Nevermind the Furthermore. We'll read your comments and let you promote the heck out of yourselves. So as always, folks, thank you for being here, and remember, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome. Thank you, and we'll see you soon on Nevermind the Furthermore. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you for watching Nevermind the Furthermore, a Rising Tide Broadcast Network production. If you enjoyed any part of this show, please give it a like or a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and consider becoming one of our Patreon supporters. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Nevermind the Furthermore.